of the session. Really glad to see all of you that have made it. And especially thank you for your time. I know it's exam season for whether you've got kids in school or you yourself are writing as well. So again, we appreciate your time and you having made it here. So for the session today, I know we've booked time right up until 12 o'clock. Ideally, we want to try and finish at around 11:30, but we're not going to rush. If there are any questions or you want to take things a little slower, if you feel I'm moving too fast, you just let me know. And then we will kick off. I will be sharing my screen and you're welcome to make notes as we go through. But as Anka mentioned, the session will be recorded and we will also be giving you notes after this or giving you access to the resource materials and links that you will see throughout today's presentation. So a big round of applause again to everybody and welcome. Let's kick things off. I'm going to be sharing my screen now and just let me know that you do see it. If I can just get a thumbs up. Thank you. There we go. Thank you all. So see, we actually have a very big representation in the sense of more than just Division L Toastmasters in the room, which will be really nice and interesting for when you do interact with one another. So as Anka said, my name is Yogita Lal. I've been involved with Toastmasters for a little over, well, actually it's 3 years now. But I've been involved, I was counting yesterday, in 25 contests, some of them as a contestant when I first started, and most of them last year as a role player in some form or the other. And I have, through that process and time, worked with a lot of other very experienced Toastmasters who have influenced and inspired a lot of the content you will see today, in addition to Toastmasters International content. If you do have a question at any point beyond where I do ask you to participate, please drop it in the chat box and Anka will alert me to the fact that there's a question. And why is it not moving? There we go. So just to let you know what we are covering today is what I'm referring to, the basics, which you will see soon, a list of resources or pointing you in the right direction to critical resources that you need to look at. What would go into your speech preparation? This is really aimed at the contest organizers, which is your contest preparation, and a little bit at the judges, but more contest organizers. What are the contest procedures, some do's and don'ts, lessons learned, and you will see there's some content that are from other Toastmasters and TLI trainers other than myself. And lastly, again, some references and additional resources aside from the critical ones. Our objectives today are what we want to get out of the session, or what I'm hoping you leave with from the session. And if there is something in addition to this, please drop it in the chat box and we'll see how we can best address it. But it's essentially to help explain to those who will help conduct contests, which is basically the contest convener or organizer, to prepare a speech contest with your teams and who all should be in that team ideally, so that you're empowered to solve speech contest challenges and questions by using very specific material. You're not reinventing the wheel, you're not going on hearsay or only just your own experience. That does lend weight to it, but Toastmasters has official documentations that we will be using, especially for this upcoming season of 2020 to 2021. And there are 3 main resources, which is the speech contest here, which is the explanation of the changes. This is quite key because changes and phrasing additions to what was done last year, which was 2019-2020 cycle. And then the online best practices as well for this coming season. And then we will look at what are the pre-day of and post-contest activities, especially what is the responsibility of the contest convener or contest chair. So before I move on from here, if I could ask you to just let me give me a show of hands or thumbs up if you need me to take you through how to use the Zoom platform, the next set of slides are about engaging so that we have an interactive session and I'm not talking at you or just by myself. But what we would like to remind everybody in any of our online engagement sessions, what you put in is what you get out. So I do kindly ask, if you haven't done it already, to please keep your phones on silent or vibrate so it doesn't disturb you and disturb anyone else when we are unmuted, so that you are also fully present and you get the most out of things. It'll also make your life easier when you do need to refer to the rule book for something, because it'll be top of mind and a trigger.
Sorry to disturb
If you're
you,
confused,
when would you like to run that small poll?
Oh, yes, thank you for that reminder. Yes, please. Anka is going to put up a poll as I'm just chatting through this part, which will just ask you to please clarify your role. That's please do complete. You'll see it on your screens right now. And as those answers are coming in, and you'll see automatically it's telling you the count and the number we're expecting.
It's telling us the count. I'll have to display the results to them.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
You're a co-host.
Yes,
yeah.
The two hosts and co-hosts, as per normal Zoom activity, don't participate in an ongoing poll. So we're waiting for 7 of you to please answer the question you see on your screen. This is to just give us an idea and help us understand who all is in the room, and so that I can also adjust the training or answer questions to the particular audience. And that's why I can see most people are not yet sure what role they're going to be playing, which is interesting because some of you I aware hold district roles, which we will get to. But back to this just in general, to maximize as well your participation. So when there is engagement and we are a little bit time sensitive, ask that you please use your time as effectively as possible. If you are unmuting to ask a question, or even if you are typing a question and it's going into the chat box, to please keep it as straight to the point as possible so that we can address as many questions as possible while we are live. Let me see, we're still got 4. We're waiting for 2 more people to respond, and then we'll have a better idea of who that is. While it's still running, I'm going to carry on. If my screen would cooperate with me. There we go. So this is the part where I was asking, please give me a thumbs up if you are already familiar enough with the Zoom platform, then we don't need to spend time on this. This is essentially using Zoom tools and how you can interact and participate. So I can see there's 1 thumb up, 2. Only seeing 2 thumbs up. Okay, so for the benefit of the majority of the members in the room, what you would be typically looking at on your screen is the bottom, on the bottom of your screen, especially if you're joining from a PC and not your phone, you would see this block at the bottom of your screen. This is what allows you to interact and have a better Zoom experience overall. For those that are using your mobile phones, I don't have screenshots for you, but you will see similar tools also to the bottom of your screen, and you typically see 3 dots to the right of it, which you can click on, and then it gives you more options to interact, very similar to what you would see on the screen. The phone users actually have a little bit more emojis to use, so a little bit more playful and lighthearted. The PC users were a little bit on the more serious side. So typically you already all are muted, so thank you for that. And most often, especially in a contest environment, your videos remain off unless otherwise asked to do that. And I'm just waiting.
Go ahead and end the poll at this stage. I think whoever hasn't voted is struggling to find where to.
Okay, I did see it looked like somebody had put their hand up, Anka, but I don't see it again.
No, only thumbs ups just now.
Okay, great. There we go. So that's just step 1 and what your tools are. Typically, you would also use something similar to this in your club environments, especially for people who are new to the Zoom platform, you'd want to give them a little bit of help in education. So like say they get the best out of the experience, not just within contest, but if you are new to using Zoom as a regular online event tool, it would be nice to give your members a little bit of a helping hand. So like I said, your mute and unmute, we generally control this in the sense that you cannot unmute yourself, especially when the event numbers are large, the participant numbers are large. We tend to have this under control through the Zoom masters or the host or co-hosts. The same with the video. And you do sometimes see a message coming up to say so-and-so's bandwidth is low, or if it is yourself, you'll see it come up as well and prompt you to change to audio only if your bandwidth is low. And then your participants list. This is where you get to see all your fellow members, who else is on the call with you, in particular when we are using a Zoom call and not a Zoom webinar. In a Zoom webinar, you cannot see who your fellow participants are, but on a Zoom meeting, as we are in now, you can click on participants and you'll see who else is in the room with you. Your chat box is where you can type in notes. Please pay attention to, in the chat box, you have a function where you can send it to everybody, or you can send it to designated people. So please just be wary, not just for this session, but any session you're in, whether you want that message to be seen by everybody or a specific person. And then reactions, this is what I was asking for just now, where it's the thumbs up or clapping hands. This is if you like something, or as I request you to interact and give me an indication on it. Next, we have also our engagement tools, which you can find on your participants specifically. So when you click on your list of participants, it'll give you the list of all the names present, plus you will see these indicators, like the ones it's showing now about the cup is you need a drink or a beverage break, you're going to be away for a time. Please do not go away for a time. A thumbs up or thumbs down in agreement with something, clapping hands. There's also an option where you can say go faster or go slower, and those options we'll see there, as well as a raised hand, which is the very first option on that. And then on your chat also allows you to chat more and be more interactive. So, and there's an explanation of, in detail, of what those indicators are when you are on the participant side. Okay, now we can get into our contest. But before we get into here, please use your chat box and very briefly answer this question. If you were a beverage, what would you be? So it could be something as simple as I would be coffee, or as complex as I would be a green tea macchiato. Please use the chat box and very quickly answer that. You can see thus far the hot drinks, and yes, to all the hot drinkers, hot beverages are dominating in the answer section. And while we're waiting for the rest of us to share what we would be if we were a beverage, I'm going to ask Anka to prepare a little breakout room for us, and you'll receive the invitation. As there's only 9 of us on this call, well, now I see there's 8 of us.
Yeah, I'm going to create 3 breakout rooms. Then there'll be 2 people per breakout room, excluding us.
Yes, thank you. So when you see the invite to join the breakout room, please do join it. It'll be 2 of you just randomly selected, and you will be discussing for your 2 minutes. Sorry, for the 2 of you, you have 3 minutes in total. You'll be discussing what you think running a high quality contest involves. Before I get into the detail and start talking about rule books, etc., like from your experience, what do you think running a high quality contest involves?
Can I go ahead and open the rooms?
Yes, thank you. So before, as you see the pop-up come up and invite you to the rooms and you make your way to your room, I can quickly tell you we have an even split of hot beverages and cold beverages. So it's going to be quite interesting. So we'll see you guys in 3 minutes. On my time, it's 9:16. So you will be joining the main room and you will automatically come back to this room at 9:19. Okay, see, Anka, it's also allocating me to room 2.
I see. So I'm just shifting a few people around quickly so that it's
Okay.
spaced out. Cool. Yeah, for some reason it allocates everyone but the main host. So you can move. I don't know. You actually just need to tell me if you want to be in one of the rooms.
I actually clicked on my later button so that I could remain here.
Cool. Do you want, just let me know if you want to go to any of the rooms, then I'll put you in there.
Sure. I just like to post and I'm not seeing it.
So there's some people. Paul, Lizzie, have you seen something pop up to go take you to a breakout room? And Mariana? Lizzie or Mariana, please unmute yourselves. Let's help us get you to the breakout room that you need to be in.
Morning. I just clicked join, but it sent me back to the main room.
Okay. I'm going to quickly switch you between rooms. You'll see 2 different messages come up because I'm going to switch you to room 1 and then back to room 2. Okay. And then it should give you another pop-up. So go with this one now I've sent you. Cool. Mariana, are you able to unmute yourself? And Lizzie's still here with us. We're having some issues, which means Jewel is sitting alone and so is Mama Solodi. I think we should maybe just get everyone in one room.
Yes,
Maybe let's just bring them back then. If we're having a technical issue, it is a small group.
Yeah,
we can handle it back in the room.
Okay.
Thank you, Anka.
Sure. Cool. Breakout rooms will close in 60 seconds. So get a pop-up, but that'll be the longest it'll take. Welcome back to the room, everybody. I think we're just waiting for Hannah and Selena. They actually probably having a discussion.
Not a problem.
Okay, they're back now. There we go.
Not sure what happened, but I was all on my own.
That's exactly why we called everyone back. Our apologies. So some struggled to join the rooms that they needed to join. So Yogita, back over to you. Let's handle it here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just trying to up my volume a little bit. Seems like everyone's a bit soft. There we go, back there. So I'm now going to ask actually everyone to unmute yourselves. As you saw, we experienced a small technical glitch. 2 of our members weren't able to join 2 other members who were sitting in the rooms by themselves. So we're going to answer the question, which was, what do you think makes for a high quality contest experience? So you're welcome to unmute yourself or maybe raise your hand if you'd like to speak. I see, Selena, you've raised your hand. Go ahead and share your point.
Yes, I think for me, the most important things that I think a great quality contest should have are preparation, because especially if we're going to do it online, it can be a bit tricky just managing everybody. And last time I was a ballot counter, I was on that team, and managing all the technicalities around it needed a lot of preparation, and we did practice and it did go very well. But I think just in general, that's really the most important thing. But also at the same time, I think it's also having a really great and diverse group of speakers in itself, because I think that then makes it interesting, it's fun, we learn a lot. And especially if it's people who then come, when it reaches the further stages, when it's people who come from different areas and different backgrounds and share their stories and all of that, I find that really, really great. So I think, yes, those two make for great quality content. Thank you.
Thank you, Selena, and that's very helpful. Anybody else would like to share or add on what Selena shared? Jewel, I see your hand. You may go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, to me, most important is having a good team and very good, strong organization, because if you don't have good organization, it doesn't matter how good the speakers are, you're going to have some very irritated, annoyed people. And especially with the process now being online, that's going to be a huge thing. So I think a strong team of people, good organization is most important. And, you know, the tools are there. If you follow the tools and you use what Toastmasters gives you, you actually can't go wrong.
Absolutely.
Or it's difficult to.
Absolutely, for sure. And I'm going to take one more share if anybody else has a point they'd like to add in addition to what Selena and Joel has shared. Okay, not seeing any more hands. All right. Thank you so much, Selena and Joel, for sharing those points. And you've covered essentially the crux of what goes into high quality contests. And as you can see on my screen, I refer to a team, which is essential. Contest is not something that you can do by one person. Absolutely not. Even if you try to organize it as one person, you're not going to really get very far. And the next is there are specific processes guided by Toastmasters International's rule books and guidelines. There's a lot that you can do, which is preparation, is the key to it. As I say, when opportunity arises, it's too late to prepare. So for contest environments in particular, you cannot wing it. Even if you have a strong team of people and they are experienced Toastmasters and maybe you've worked with them last year or you've been involved in a contest with them before, you cannot wing it. More so for the two people who indicated that they are contestants who are joining us today, this morning. For yourself as well, more so as a contestant, do not take for granted the areas where you are requested by the contest convener or the contest chair to join a pre-briefing session or to follow a particular process. It is all there to look after you as a contestant. So there's a responsibility as a contestant and a responsibility as a contest organizer to ensure that the processes are followed for the best experience. And of course, as Joel mentioned as well, all of the tools are there. With one exception, which I'm going to come to later in terms of tools, and it's an opportunity for somebody to take that up and develop it further. But from a resource point of view, Toastmasters International spoils us a great deal. There are dedicated links and resources all and only about contests. A lot of it is reading material. There are some videos that are from other districts like District 61, District 6, and District 4 that are quite strong in contests. So if you are more into a visual learner and you prefer to watch YouTubes, there are some videos you can watch. And Toastmasters International website also has some tutorials that are videos. If you are not too much into the reading, the one part you can't get away from with reading is the actual rule book. So now that we have the basics of what goes into high quality contests, let's get into the details. because fundamentally contests have changed from what we knew it to be. So even if you were a Toastmaster who's been a very long-standing Toastmaster and you're more familiar with the in-person contests, and last year you perhaps were not as involved when we rapidly changed into online, there have been some additional changes to what was done last year. A lot of it has to do with eligibility and also who's making up your team and what you need in your team, as rapid learning experiences has thrown us there. So moving on, firstly, before we get into the team as well, what are your critical resources? So your critical resources are starting with on your leftmost area, and this has a hyperlink to it, which when you get the notes of it, you'll be able to go there. And that is the rule book. This is the official version for July 2020 to June 2021. And I'm specifically naming the date because it is critical that you use the correct version of the rule book. So if you just Google Toastmasters rule book, contest rule book, you might come up with a previous version, which won't be updated with what the latest changes are. In particular, responsibility as a contestant and as to your contestants are the rules around video recordings and how people progress from one level to the next. Very particular rules, and also around eligibility, which is in detail in the book. Next to that is the explanation of the changes, which is a very recent document that has just come out. And this explains in a bit more detail why certain things have been changed, why certain phrasing have been changed or clarified. And it goes through each one and refers to each clause step by step. So you just need to have a look at it, download it. Like I say, all of these have got the hyperlinks to it, so you're more than welcome to go there. The next best one I found to be very useful, and this is more of a guide than the rule, it's an accompaniment to the rule book, is the online best practice for speech contest in particular. So this is a little bit different than if you've seen the tab or the resources for online meetings. This is specific to contest best practices, and it has captured a number of learnings from all of us that were participating last year very well into a single resource. It addresses in particular the technical requirements that you would need to help make your contest successful and a high quality experience, both for yourself as the organizer and for your contestants, and of course your audience. We'd want them to have the best. And then next, last but not least, is a resources that was created by ourselves, District 74, one of our members, Gary Tintinger. And it is a very simple, it is designed to be very simple, straightforward, quick access resource, which lists what are the procedures and what are the scripts that go with certain parts of your whole overall contest experience. It is meant to be simple so that you can even access it from your phone if you need to, and it's some way that you can check in. A number of us have contributed to it from our experiences, but you're welcome to visit it as well, in addition to the other Toastmaster International resources. And there are some resources on District 74's website as well, in addition to that. So what are overall key points as well that you need to pay attention to? So in case you perhaps are not a district council member and may not have seen any communication about this, although it has gone through the channels and it has been officially minuted from the District Executive Council meeting on the 25th of September this year, District 74 has elected to only participate or hold in the international speech contest. And this is online version, international speech contest. So we do have the other versions as well. For any of the very newer Toastmasters with us this morning, there are 7 different contests within the Toastmasters environment, but District 74 is only participating officially in the international speech contest. If your club wants to, for the fun of it, for the joy and experience of it, for the growth of your members, you may hold the others, which are a humorous speech contest, table topics, evaluations contest, and some of the others. You're more than welcome to do that within your club environments. Just know that it is not part of the overall progression, and members will not move beyond your club level. But if it's for practice and I say the growth of your members, you're more than welcome to go ahead and do that. and it would follow similar preparation as what you're going to go through now with the international one, with exception to the evaluation contest, which you will find in the rule book as to what its variations and needs are. The other key elements to please take note of is the dates. Contest season is from mid-January 2021 to early May 2021. The reason for this is we are also working backwards from when the international speech contest is taking place at the conference, which is usually August of the year. Our district conference is on May, from the 6th to the 9th of May, specifically 2021. And we work backwards from there into when your club's area and division level contests will be scheduled. So something else to note as well is your club area and division level contest must be completed before the district contest. Now, some of you may be smiling and saying, Yogita, that's obvious. As we know, not everybody interprets things the same way, so I felt it's best to reiterate this is imperative because this is how your members will progress from one level to the next. As a contestant, this is how you will progress from one level to the next. The other thing to note, both for contestants and organizers, it would be really helpful to you and your overall experience, especially if you have not been very involved in last year's online contests, is to partake in the mock contest sessions, which with our courtesy of our district chief judge, who this year is Sonate Liu, DTM Sonate Liu, who is also a member of Division L from Moving Forward Toastmasters Club, intends to hold these mock contest sessions either at best beginning December this year or in the January 2021. So please look out for communication around that. When you see the invites come out, especially if you are a council member or an executive council member, so that being area and division directors, please kindly partake in it because it will really help you host a high quality session for your area, for the clubs that you are serving. Next up as well, and a key point to note in terms of today's training, I am not going to be covering judges training in detail because we have a follow-up session on the 12th of December, which will be in detail around what's happening regarding judges training. This will also include ballot counters because you are a core two of all judges, and we're a little bit around timekeeping as well. From a contestant point of view, I will cover how timekeeping works for you and what you need to pay attention to in today's session. Next, as well, to reiterate, your club contest can be online or in person, only as so far it is safe and in accordance with regulation and law. So we are currently coming out of lockdown level 1. We should officially be out of it really soon. And meetings are allowed, in-person meetings are allowed, gatherings are allowed, again with restrictions around social distancing and wearing of masks that is within South Africa. For our neighboring countries, because I know we've got members from some of the other countries with us now, you will also have to oblige and adhere to your local laws and regulations around in-person. But this is only for club contests. When it comes to the higher levels, area, division, and district level, this is not a District 74 decision. This is a Toastmasters International Directive. All contests will be online. This is not negotiable. Under the online circumstances as well, you will observe physical distance. So not social distance, because as I said, we're apart, but we're together. So please observe physical distance. What is required of you as a contestant and a contest official at all times is that you are audible. When you need to be audible, you are audible, especially the contest chair and the chief judge. You are audible at all times, and when needed, whether you are using a microphone or speakers, however it may be, please be audible. Secondly, that you are visible. In particular for contestants, you really need to be visible. That could be a make or break for you in terms of how judges score you, although there is criteria around not being biased to it, but please make sure that you are visible, whether again you are using a webcam, you are using your mobile phone, whatever the technology may be, ensure that you are audible and visible at all times. And note that the district contest only is recorded and recorded live. But all other contests are not recorded, other than when the contest chair possibly asks you to please put your cameras on, we want to take a nice group photo online, those elements. But when contestants are speaking, it is not recorded and no recordings are permitted. As the same you would have in person, applies the same to online. At this point, are there any questions? You can please use your raised hand or the chat box as an indicator. And I'm just quickly checking. Noted, Hannah, I see your comment on your internet connection. As Anka mentioned, the session is being recorded, so you will be able to access it again later. Okay, so I'm going to move on. And again, waiting for technology to work with me. There we go. So on our contest team, who is your dream team that you are looking for, or what overall goes into the team when we are talking about contest? First and foremost, it's your contestants. If you don't have contestants, you don't have a contest, and you don't need to worry about the contest convener or the chief judge. So contestants first and foremost. And there is eligibility criteria for all contestants, especially international speech, and we'll go in detail through that. Then there are also some processes that contestants need to follow, as I alluded to before, around your club processes versus the area, division, and district levels of the contest. The next most important group of people are your contest conveners or contest organizers. Sometimes the contest convener is the same person as what is referred to as the contest chair or the day chair. Not always, but it's sometimes the same person. The contest convener or contest chair is ultimately responsible for the contestants. So it falls to you to make sure contestants know what they're doing and you have all the necessary documentation needed, and you have guided contestants and briefed them appropriately so that they're in the best possible position to compete effectively. And the next group are your contest officials, which are led by the contest chief judge. This is made up primarily of your judges and then your other role players or officials, which are your timekeepers, your ballot counters as well, and backup role players to that. So essentially, you can see there are three main components to your dream team. And this is a little bit bigger than your typical club event, where you would be looking for like your Toastmaster only and table topics masters, etc. So a little bit different roles, and they do have different responsibilities. Some are similar, which is the timekeeper primarily behaves exactly the same in your club. In the contest environment, this does the same thing. So what is the eligibility criteria of contestants and contest officials? For contestants specifically, you have to be a paid up member at all times of the contest. So when you're going to, your club is hosting a contest and you want to participate, you need to be a paid up member. When you want to move on, if you are the club champion and you want to move on from there to the area level contest, you need to be a paid up member at that point in time. What happens sometimes, or has happened previously, is because of the timing. If a club starts really early and decides they want to run their club contest in January, but the area contest is typically in April or late March, for example, and that is now running into the next due cycle, and you're still in the process of paying. If at the point in time, your individual membership and that of your club needs to be in good standing, at the time the area contest is done, isn't through, you are no longer eligible. To the point, if you see this point here, that's in italics, this is straight out of the rule book. Even if the level of illegitimacy or eligibility is only found out later on, you can still be disqualified, and the next person up in the ranking or results of that contest is then eligible and will move on to the next level. So please, as contestants and as organizers, make this very clear to your club members, your areas, divisions, to your division members, that when it comes to being an eligible member, it starts with you have to be a paid up member at the point before the contest takes place. Next up is your education level. So you need to have completed 2 levels of pathways, so level 1 and level 2, or only for Toastmasters who have joined before the rollout of pathways. So this would be before 2018. You may use your competent communicator, so CC6 level, as a valid education eligibility. But anybody else who has joined from 2018 onwards, you are subject to pathways and you must have completed 2 levels before you can compete in the international speech contest. The only other exception is for charter members. If there are new clubs chartering, and this is especially more important, I guess, for area directors, because you will be providing the guidance. For a charter club that is less than 1 year old before the contest starts happening, you are exempted from the education criteria. So if you just joined now in November, you're part of a charter club, you're founding members, you can go ahead and participate. You don't need to have done the level 2. Those are the only exceptions for contestants. With regard to officials, you have to also be a paid up member at all times. And this is not only for judges. Previously, there's been a mistake in interpretation, thinking it's only judges that need to be officially paid up members, but it is all members. Whether you are the timekeeper or the ballot counter, you need to please be a official paid up member. Even if you're the SAA, Zoom master, all of this goes into overall rules around members progressing further, and we don't want to inadvertently put our members at risk of disqualification because we haven't done our checks and balances properly. Next, important point around club official or contest officials, and this is in particular now around judges, is all contests from the area contest upwards need to have themselves completed a level 2 or CC6 and have been a member for a minimum of 6 months, a Toastmasters member. So not necessarily that club, but at least a member of Toastmasters overall. In my opinion, and I've made this note there, in order for us to keep a high quality level, and we are responsible to contestants to do this, I would advise that even when you are doing your club level contests, please ensure that your judges meet the criteria of having completed level 2 or hold a CC6. And this is only just so you're giving them the best possible advantage and experience they can from club level upwards. What's also important to note, and again, some previous confusion around this, is you cannot be participating in the same contest and hold a role. So you cannot, for example, be a contestant, a speaker, and be the timekeeper in that same event. At a club level, you can't participate at another club and support them by holding a role. Preferably don't take on a judging role if you are going to compete. Leave the judging roles completely. But if another club needs your support, needs your help, as I say, a ballot counter, or even I would actually advise don't do the ballot counting, but perhaps as a timekeeper, you could do that, or the role of an SAA or the Zoom master. Preferably do not take on judging and ballot counting roles as a contestant. And after the area level onwards, you may not do that as a contestant. So contest organizers as well, please make sure you're not calling on contestants. Even if it's the second place contestant, be wary because life happens and sometimes the first place contestant cannot progress onto the next level. So we need to not compromise our second place holders or third place holders, that they are never made ineligible by our own actions. Also, something to note is, especially when it comes down to officials at area level upwards, you may not be a member of the club, the judges in particular, you may not be a member of any of the clubs represented there. In order for it to be fair, the judges will usually come from outside that area. And generally, they are your district council members. Any questions at this point? Okay, moving on. So how else can you check eligibility and very quickly? Toastmasters has an eligibility assistant. You can see the picture on your screen. That's exactly what it looks like on the website. As you can see, also importantly, you see my name, they welcome you, Geeta. In order to access this tool, you have to be logged in. It's one of those resources or tools that you cannot access if you are not logged in. So please be logged in and then you can access this. And it is found under Leadership Central and it says Eligibility Assistant, so you will not get lost finding it. What's important to note as well is that any current district leaders, so this is district executive council members, area directors and upwards, are not eligible as contestants in any form, unless it's just a fun contest your club is hosting. But for the international speech contest, you are not eligible to participate this year. Next up to be aware of, especially when we get into next year, is those members who are campaigning to be district leaders and want to be voted into the next district executive or district council. You may not participate as a contestant either. So please be aware of that as well as an organizer in terms of who you're calling on. And as I alluded to just now, your primary pool of officials or role players you may call upon as an organizer are going to be the district leaders. So if you've been a little bit quiet around your networking, I suggest you start making friends and networking in some of the other areas so that you may call on these guys, not just when you need them, but start building the relationships ahead of time. Next also that you need to note is you may only see the eligibility of your own members. It will not allow you to see across clubs unless you're an area director and then you can see your area's club members. Or if you're a division director, you can see all of your division members. And for district cabinet members can see the entire district and all their members. So please be aware that at a club level, you cannot check eligibility for somebody else. You would have to ask somebody from that club on your behalf to check eligibility for you, especially if this is going to be a role player, a judge role player in particular. You'd ask them to help. And you see there's an option as well here that says check myself, but you do need the member's ID as well. Are we clear? Can I just get a thumbs up or a number 1 in the chat box if we are clear on eligibility? Because this is usually the part that undoes everybody. So Yannick, please just, yeah, I see, okay, everyone's using the chat box. Awesome.
Oh, wait, sorry. I do have a question.
Yes, Selena.
Sorry, maybe I'm mistaken, but for example, is an area director a person who works at district level, therefore meaning that they cannot be eligible to be a contestant?
Yes. So an area director would be, in this case, I'm going to use Anka as the example. Anka is the L2 area director. So Anka is not eligible as a contestant. She's eligible as a official. So you may call upon her to fill any of the contest roles, including contest chair, for example. She could do that, but not as a contestant.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
So, and also just to clarify, Selena, this is specifically for the international speech contest. And because District 74 is not doing evaluation or table topics, but if your club is holding that contest as a fun experience, then everybody is welcome to participate because they aren't going to progress any further.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right, let us move on. So next up from your eligibility is you need to know now, how do you pick your champion? So on the one hand, it seems very obvious. It's like, oh, we'll just hold a contest and that's how we're going to choose our champion. There are different ways though for different clubs. And the rule book states it very clearly that at a club level, you may choose the method in which you want to elect or have your club represented in a contest. and show why my screen is, there we go. Oh, no, there we go. So any suitable criteria? Would anybody like to venture what an alternate to a contest may be? Another method that you could choose your champion. Any guesses? You can just quickly unmute yourself. Yes, Anka?
By a vote by the club?
Yes, absolutely, by vote by the club. And there's also one other popular method that I've seen in District 74. Anybody else?
Selena's got her hand up.
Oh, so I was also going to say by vote.
I think I saw Jewel also had her hand up.
No, I
Yes.
didn't.
Oh, right, Jewel. Not putting you on the spot. So the other method, aside from a vote by the club, is if there's only one person who says, I want to compete and take part in the contest, then it's not even actually voted. It can just simply be noted, and since that person or member's name is sent on to the area director that you are representing, or X member is representing X club in the international speech contest. So long as there is some track record of it, that there was agreement, it was accepted, and they're moving on. The other thing to note as well when it comes to contest and selecting your champions is there is an exception to the rule of only one member may progress, and that is in an area where there are 4 or less clubs. So 4 or less clubs only. Then clubs may choose 2 members, so first place and a second place, to send through to the area level contest. That is the only exception. Other than that, if the area has 5 or more clubs, then it's only 1 member per club may progress through area and then onwards from there. But as I said before, please don't compromise the second or third place winners, champions, because sometimes they may be needed to step in if the first place winner cannot continue for whatever reason. And again, in terms of choosing your champions, area division and district are online only. And again, you can only progress through these levels. You cannot go through area by vote of, say, the area council, for example, or getting all your clubs together. They cannot vote. You have to hold a contest. Even if it's one person, you have to hold a contest. So in that case, I could also share with you that last year when I was area director, myself and 2 fellow area directors hosted a combined 3 area contest all on one day. It was really helpful because we shared resources and pooled it instead of having to try and host our own and then get role players, etc. We ran it together. So I'm happy to share more details about that a little bit later in lessons learned. But that's also another way of holding a good quality contest and giving your contestants good experience. The next thing to note in terms of your champions, your contestants, is they have to comply with the rules around providing their own technical setup. So this means that you cannot set up an area or say like a studio, for example, and then invite contestants to come to that location and then participate. Unfortunately, the rules are very clear that every contestant is responsible for their own ability to participate technically, and we may not help them. Other than if I say perhaps provided a one-on-one support to a contestant, but we may not provide designated locations or recording devices for groups of contestants to participate. Right, moving on exactly to who is the contest convener and what do they do? So the contest convener overall in whole is responsible for the contest. Typically, it falls to the VPE to do this, but it can also be somebody the VPE designates or approaches the VPE of a club to do the contest at a club level. I suggest that you, for your members or yourself personally as well, link it to a Pathways project if you have that opportunity, especially if you are at a level 4, level 5. you can link it to an HPL, which is a level 5, or a manager team, which is a level 4 project. And this will allow you to achieve 2 things at one shot: hold your contest, serve your club, get leadership experience, and give your club an educational goal and yourself complete an educational goal on your path. And that way you get a little bit more done. The contest convener, as I mentioned before, can also be the contest chair or the day chair. This is the person who's responsible for doing the hosting, typically, or otherwise known as the Toastmaster. That's the role of the contest chair. There's very specific rules around how you conduct yourself, though, and facilitate that session. Unlike the Toastmaster, where you provide little tidbits and linking between speakers, in a contest environment, you don't do linking. You are simply announcing the speakers on and off as they come in until a very late section, which you then interact and you have a lot more energy for the session. It's much like the SAA as well of the contest, a very specific rule and a very specific script to follow, which is all available. So please don't reinvent the wheel. Follow the scripts. It makes your life a lot easier and very clear, as Jewel mentioned as well. If you just use the resources, you're fine. You will not go wrong. Next is you are also responsible to brief the contestants. As I mentioned before, they are your responsibility. If a contestant is confused about something, in most likely they haven't been briefed appropriately and haven't been checked on that they are aware of what they need to do, what time they need to show up, what documents they must provide. And you are responsible as the contest chair or convener to make sure that all the documents are in, primarily around their eligibility. It's an official document that needs to be signed. It can be digitally signed, and their profile, because the contest chair will need the profile in particular to be able to engage with them effectively and be able to announce them, their speech title, their names, spellings are correct, etc. These documents must be in before the contest takes place. It cannot be on the day of contest. For an online environment, it becomes really challenging to manage on the day of contest. The next step, as well as the contest convener, is you are responsible to help gather some of the other role players, which include your Zoom master that can double up as your SAA as well, or your SAA can double up as your Zoom master, and your SAAs and your timekeepers fall a little bit more under the contest convener than the chief judge, but the timekeeper can go to either chief judge or the contest convener. That's a discussion you would have with your overall team as to who is going to manage what and who's going to gather what role players. And also why mentioning about could be the VPE, because if the VP is going to participate in the contest and be a contestant, they should not be involved in contest organizing, or only up to a point, and then they have to stop and they cannot be involved any further. And that is particularly once the chief judge is named, they can't be involved any further in the contest. If they were going to be the contest chair, not possible, unless it's in another club event that they're supporting. Who are your contest officials? There are 2 of your critical roles in your online contest environment, and that is your technical Zoom team. And note the word team, not one person. So this would be much like Anka and myself now. Anka is the Zoom master, but I'm also quite capable of doing the technical elements if there should be a problem. But you should have somebody else who can back up the primary Zoom master in the event something goes wrong. Next also are your SAAs. Your SAAs have a slightly different function to the Zoom master. The Zoom master will focus on the contestants and the chief judge. The SAA should focus on the audience and help the Zoom master to manage the audience. So people who perhaps unmute themselves randomly or put their video cameras on randomly or are just disruptive, the SAAs should help manage that and crowd control, especially when the audience numbers are big. It becomes really difficult to manage if you've got like 25 plus people in the room and you are trying to honor the contestants and get them on and off the screen on time, plus you're still trying to control the audience. So please make sure you try have an SAA, at least 1, 2 preferably, and a Zoom team as well. Timekeepers at a club level is 2. From an area onwards up, please have 3. The reason for this is also based on learning, is that while the one of them is a primary and the other is the secondary, both timekeepers' results are used when it comes into feeding into the chief judge. But should a timekeeper lose connection during the contest at all, they are no longer able to continue. So if you don't have a third timekeeper backup, you could land up only using the result of one timekeeper, which could be quite critical from an overall judging and ballot point of view. So from an area onwards, please do have 3 timekeepers, but if you can, at a club level as well, have 3 timekeepers. Preferably also use the official TI time colors and backgrounds, which is a link directly to download those sheets and allow you to change your virtual background. In the event you can't do the virtual background, because some people cannot, especially if you're using a mobile phone, then you must please use very clear and unambiguous colors. So for example, like this is very clearly green and this is very clearly red. But if I had to show you, this is not very clearly yellow, it's orange. Now it could get confusing to your contestants if you are not showing them yellow or amber very distinctly different to the red and to the green. For those contestants as well that are colorblind or color sensitive, not having very clear, distinct color differentiation, whether you're using a piece of paper or the TI backgrounds, can really be detrimental to them going overtime and could result in them being disqualified. So timekeepers do need to be briefed properly and to make sure that they understand their roles thoroughly. The other contest officials are the judges, and as I said, I'm not going to go in detail with it because we will do judges training. But your judges typically are the numbers you see there in breakdown, plus a tiebreaker judge who is only known to the chief judge. The other judges typically do land up knowing who you are because you're in the same WhatsApp group, but judges' identities are protected and are anonymous, should be anonymous from contestants. On that, we do not rename judges. You may see some referral in the rule books to say that judges, where it says, please rename yourself when you come onto Zoom. If your contestants say your contestant so-and-so and timekeeper, etc. Judges are not to be renamed at all. Do not name them at all because it has happened, and I've been in some of these where this has happened. It comes to the end, the contest chair or the SSA, please put your cameras on, and there will be a judge or two who's still labeled Judge XYZ and puts their camera on. There's your identity gone. This becomes a problem that if there is a protest in any nature or somebody feels that they were not treated fairly, which is a crux of the contest, is that a contestant feels they were treated fairly. So please, judges not to be renamed by the Zoom masters at all. Club level, you want 5 judges, preferably not your own members, but typically I've seen clubs have 1 member of their own and then Toastmasters from other clubs around them. Areas, it's 5 or 1 per club represented. So minimum of 5, but if your area has 6 clubs, for example, you must have 7 members in order to not end up with a stalemate, including then the tiebreaker judge. Division is a minimum of 7 judges or 1 per area represented. And then the district is a minimum of the divisions in the district and then plus the tiebreaker judges. I also strongly advise you when you are looking at the number of officials required to have a backup for every role. I've been in contests where there are factors we cannot control, the role players, especially load shedding. And this becomes a problem where you suddenly have a critical role player no longer available. So please always have a backups or additional role players. And if the chief judge decides, oh, well, I had 10 judges, but I'm only using 9 ballots or 8 ballots, whatever, it is up to them to manage it. But definitely as an organizer, more is better. In this case, less is not more, more is more. Any questions at this point? And I noticed we've already come down to a very small, intimate group. We are now 4 people.
Yeah, this is the worst turnout that any of the training sessions has ever had. I think it's got something to do with the silly season, to be honest, because 47 people RSVP'd.
That's
Yeah,
shocking.
it is,
That
it is.
shocking.
But they do know they can RSVP just to get the recording. So it might have been
Oh, that's
that.
also not right. I
Other
guess.
than I know we
Tell them, Jewel.
I need to ask a favor if we can have a comfort break.
yes, I was just gonna do this next slide and then we've got a break.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sorry. I was going to hold on, but we open discussions here.
Yes, no, we can manage it because it's so intimate group of us. So basically what I've just put up now, and Joel, I think you would have seen and experienced some of this yourself in particular. DTM Tuboho was very involved in contests last year, and she did a contest chair role a number of times. So I had just asked her to please share what were some of her tips, and these were her tips specifically around the contest chair role. So I'm just going to leave that screen up because next, yes, we're supposed to have a break. And I'm going to leave that up. On my watch, it's 10:05. So we can come back at 10:10.
Cool.
It's 10:07.
Yeah, it's also
Oh, yeah,
10:07 on my side.
my
Sorry.
10:07. My phone is saying 10:05. We'll go with the
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
All right.
So 10:10 anyway. Okay.
But 3 minutes, if you only need a 3-minute break.
Yeah, quick.
All right. I'll see you guys soon. Leave it up. Going to pause the recording.
Are you there, Yogita? You are on mute.
Hello. Sorry, I'm back. I was here.
Cool.
I keep losing my controls. I just need to see, is Jewel and Selena back?
Jewel is.
Yes,
She was
I'm back.
asking when are we starting again.
Yeah, I'm
There we
also
go.
back.
Cool.
Oh, okay, excellent. Sorry, guys. Right, so you've got Tebogo's main tips, which some of us have already alluded to. The two most things that I want to draw your attention to is what she's added. And again, I think for those of us that have experienced contests, we can agree this is really important. The day chair must have energy. And I would add as well the SAA, because the SAA is actually the person who calls to order before the day chair even or contest chair takes on their role. So the SAA also has this particular script they need to read and not to alter. There's some alterations for whether it's at a club or division or area level in terms of recordings and mentioning that you, by joining by default, you have agreed to have your picture taken, for example. So they have a specific script they need to read, and you want your SAA, they're not to do the role of the day chair or the contest chair, but they also need to bring some energy as well and be professional, because they're going to set the tone for your audience members in particular, especially if you've got non-Toastmasters who have been invited and are joining your contest. Make it really sure that you choose the right people with the right energy, and for your clubs that also not just fit with your culture of your club, but are going to represent you well. It's not always necessarily members of your own club. You can invite members from other clubs to support your contest environment. Next up also is the one that most we fall foul of is music. And again, my experience lessons learned last year is you had some Zoom masters who would not necessarily consult with the day chair or the contest convener, and you'd have a list of music playing that, while current and hip and fashionable, the lyrics do not actually align with Toastmaster values of respect, integrity, service, and excellence. So at all times, please curate your music list, your playlist very well, or work with the Zoom master or the SAA, whoever's going to be handling it, so that there isn't any misrepresentation on it. And we've just come back from the break. So next are all the briefing points. The briefing points are now alluding to a bit around the process and what happens. But it's also mainly the responsibility of the contest chair and the chief judge. We're focusing on the briefings that are the responsibility of the contest chair or the day chair. So your briefing points typically focus around what are your speaking areas, and this is for contestants, making sure they understand what forms the speaking area. For online, it is the screen. This is your speaking area. But there are some physical setup requirements as well, that when you brief your contestants prior, you can help them to set up so that they are placed optimally to represent themselves. It's around settings around the camera, the lighting, areas around speaking order, which is really important when we're going to talk about speaking order. Eye contact and clarifying for them that eye contact online is looking at the webcam, at your camera, and not looking either at yourself, which gives you to the right or left of your screen view, or looking at the screen gives you a downward eye cast. Then also clarifying to them what audience reception looks like. And this is typically in club environments, you would ask people to unmute and show their love and enthusiasm. But in a contest environment, we don't actually ask audience to unmute themselves until the last speaker has spoken. Briefing around, as I said, the judging and the ballot countings, which fall under the chief judge, and the timing, which is relevant both for judging and for the contestants. Contestants is exactly the same as your club. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and 7 minutes. With the exception, there is no indication given to a contestant when they exceed the time. So if they exceed the 7 minutes and 30 seconds, you cannot indicate to them in any manner beyond the red light that they have gone over time. The only other online exception as well is that a speaker for international speaking is allowed up to a total of 8 minutes, and that is to cater for if they have a break in connection. They are allowed to reconnect and are allowed a time up until 8 minutes as an allowance for technical difficulties. And then obviously you want to have your contestant check their video and audio in the contestant briefing, as well as on the day of when they join the session earlier, to just recheck everything is in working order. So in general, what are your briefings that you would give generally that's not specific to any role? This would do around renaming. In particular, as I mentioned, we ask contestants to rename or be named contestant and their name. They may not identify, especially at an area level upwards. You do not identify as your club name unless you're participating in a joint multi-area contest. It may be necessary to then say contestant L for Yogita, contestant L5 Anka, contestant L7 Joel, when it's multiple areas. But be careful around the naming, and remind your contestants as well, they're not to wear any Toastmasters insignia, especially any identifiers that might allude to what level they hold or how long they've been in Toastmasters for. Particularly, these are name badges that you see some people wear, even for online. The contestants are not allowed to do that, and they should not indicate in any manner that where they are, because it can lead to bias on the judging side. Also that your judges, as mentioned there, are to remain anonymous. Your voting and tie-breaking judges not to be renamed at all. The chief judge can be named because they're a key role player, and you will hear them coming on and off the mic, or off the screen, but not the individual judges. Only the chief judge should know who that is, and well, fellow judges. There is a note here around evaluation contest, but we are not doing the evaluation contest, so we would ignore that. But yes, there would be a target speaker. And your timers will be renamed, and your ballot counters for ease of management will be renamed, as well as then your other officials, your Zoom and SAA role players. We ask as well that other than even area, I suppose, upwards, try not to even have visiting cabinet members identify themselves as, like if it's say would be Selena Sipai, district director. You'd leave off that. It's not necessary in a contest environment. People do know who the necessary officials are if they need them. Next, you would also brief your audience. So this can be a little bit like when we started this session, and you've seen it in some of the COT sessions in particular, there are welcome screens or instructor screens that says how to rename yourself, what time are we starting, like keep yourself on mute. So you would advise that to your audience as well, and especially to the contestants around pinning the timers, ensuring they know how to use it. For non-Zoom users, this becomes particularly important, is that your members who are now participating on a Zoom platform know how to pin, and are also given the ability to do that. As I've noticed, in some cases, you don't always have the ability to pin. Excuse me. And also the ability to switch between gallery and speaker view. It's the responsibility of the Zoom master to ensure the contestant is on speaker view, especially when they are speaking, that it does not go into gallery view. You may control your own viewpoint, but the Zoom master will by default put somebody into speaker view when a contestant is speaking. Not so stressful around the contest chair, specifically for contestants. Obviously, it would be nice for contest chair to also be in speaker view and just manage things. And last but not least is at the bottom, all the stuff we know about briefing our audience members, whether they're Toastmasters or not, reminding them to please not unmute themselves if you allow them. Anka and I were just chatting earlier when we logged in to just test things are working. There are settings as a Zoom master If you log into the actual profile of the account, not through the app, this is now going online to the browser, to Zoom account itself, and log in using the official email address, the user account. There's settings there that you could go into, which you can change, that do not allow the audience to unmute themselves, etc. And you can do a lot of controls and put that in place for your contest setup. Your Zoom master just needs to be able to do that. If the Zoom master is not the same person who typically accesses that account, so in this case, say it's not Anka who would access the Division L account, but that is the account being used, then you need to have discussion with the owners of the Division L account to allow the Zoom master access to it, or ensure that they have done that setup in the background and you don't need to log in then to the user account. But it is possible to set up a lot of controls and safety measures from that point that you are not necessarily able to do when you are in the app here. It is better to set it up from the profile point of view. And then obviously the contest chair will remind people to please keep their mics off and their cameras off unless you are about to speak. This is the same for contestants as well, that they don't keep their cameras on unless so requested. Unless also contestant, it's part of their speech and they ask you to put your cameras on or something to that effect. I would then advise you to advise your contestants to please let the Zoom masters know that in advance. This now then follows under the rules that like background screens are allowed, but it's treated as a prop. So the same rules of in-person prop use, you would have to set it up yourself. You have 1 minute. It would be the exact same. You have 1 minute of that silence period when you can set up everything you need to. And if you need people to be able to unmute or not, you need to let the Zoom master or SAA at the very least know in advance that you may need this, or you want to share a screen, etc., and test all of that. The other thing for judges is to try and not look at the timer screen, which can be challenging, but they do need to note that because judges are not allowed to use time as a criteria, and they typically don't even see the time of any of the contestants. So, any questions at this point? I'm just also conscious of managing our time. Good? Okay. All right, so on the day of the contest, let me just make my thing smaller. On the day of the contest, what would you typically be doing? You would open your meeting room, your event room, at least 30 minutes, not less than 30 minutes, to 60 minutes earlier. In the event, contestants need to test their video, and this is not actually in the event. You should do this regardless, even if you did it the day before, depending what time your contest is as well, at least 30 minutes if it's very early in the morning, or 60 minutes if you can allow. Let people join in. This may be a challenge for those contestants who are data sensitive and may not necessarily be joining from a Wi-Fi connection point of view. So do chat to your contestants and come to an agreement as to what is reasonable, preferably not less than 30 minutes before the contest is officially going to start. It follows the same rules as in person. If the contestant is not there at the point of the official contest starting, they are no longer eligible to participate. So you need to be very careful and ensure that contestants are logged in and in the room, basically now part of the contest when it starts. There is also an option. I have personally not seen this, so if you have experienced it, please do share. But there is an option where some contestants might be requesting to be taken or kept into a breakout room. They don't actually want to hear the other contestants speak or anything. They can be put into a breakout room. They can also be put into a breakout room to privately test their own setup without being in the main screen, which is a good idea, especially even if you use a waiting room. Once you start admitting people in, and if you're still busy with setup or contestant is checking their setup, or even if the contest chair is checking their setup, you don't actually want that to be happening in the main room where now audience members are beginning to filter in. You typically want that to happen outside of it. And the judging team should not typically be part of this session. they should have their own day of briefing and then just join as audience members, so that who the judging team is in particular doesn't become obvious. Because otherwise, if you get them joining and then contestants join as well, to set up things all into the same room and then get put into breakout rooms, it becomes very obvious to contestants who the judges are, even without you renaming them, because these are now the people leaving the room, coming back, leaving. So it's preferably put them in a different call altogether, let them join as regular audience members, and then just possibly admit them before you admit other audience members, but very close one onto the other in order to protect who they are. So now we have some insights to be shared from Gary Tintinger, because I'm sure tired of
This is
Gary.
an online contest, a Zoom master. I highly recommend that your chief judge is an experienced Toastmaster that has been part of contests before, and that your Zoom master is an experienced person when it comes to running the Zoom platform. The more they know about the intricacies of the Zoom platform, the smoother your contest will run, and the more fun everybody will have. And finally, point number 3, there are a few briefings that need to happen before the contest. These typically happen at the venue on the day of the contest. But in an online environment, I highly recommend that the contestant briefing and the judges briefing are held a couple of days before the actual contest. And then on the day of the contest, your Zoom master can create a breakaway room where the contest chair can go with the contestants and let them practice and get their setup right. They can get their camera position correct, their lighting correct, and their audio. So that when the contest starts, they switch on their cameras, stand up, deliver their presentations, take the applause, and exit stage left. Toastmasters, a little wrap up. Number 1, enjoy the experience. Number 2, gather a team. And number 3, run the briefing sessions before the contest, a couple of days before the contest. And on the day of the contest, go to breakaway room for the contestants to go and practice and get their setups correct before the contest starts. Toastmasters, enjoy contest season.
So that was from and all about the briefing side and what you would do specifically to make your contestants feel at ease and that they're clear about what they need to do. You also clear what you need to do as a contest chair or convener. Are there any questions before we move on? Not seeing anything? Okay, let's go on. So the next part to running high quality contests are around the processes, which are the preparation. What do you do? Typically, you would start 6 to 8 weeks in advance of your club contests. This would be hyping up the contest, letting your club members know contest season is coming, what do they need to do. Your VP is really critical here in explaining the educational requirements. Your treasurer, president, really critical in ensuring members understand they need to be fully paid up with their dues. And this means not only just until March, but they need to be paid up for the April to September dues period as well. So definitely with the COVID conditions being as they are and people feeling strain, they may still want to participate and we should enable, support this as best as possible. We can offer our members different methods to ensure that they are paid up by the time contest or your club contest starts and your area, division, district contest rolls around. So please do begin to engage with your members as part of your preparation process as soon as possible. Let them know that contest is coming. What does it mean? There's some guides as well around why contest is important or why it matters, what you get from it. And it would be a good idea to start that conversation sooner rather than later. Other elements around your processes and preparation is the building of your team, which we've just been through. Who do you actually need? How many different people do you need to make your dream contest team? The rest of it is around some of the other steps you need to take before your contest preparation. And this is, as I've just said, make sure that your contestants and your officials are gathered, but also that they are registered and they are eligible. So you've got to do those eligibility checks. But what you see here in the mention of the appropriate voice or text back channels, this has to do now with technical team setup. And it's also very emphatic around on the chief judge side, but also your contestants, that you have alternate methods for them to be able to contact you both before the contest starts, and so the time leading up to the contest, the day of the contest, and during the contest. So in the event a contestant either suddenly is experiencing difficulty, they may not be able to necessarily contact you via the Zoom platform or whatever other online platform you are using. There needs to be an alternate back channel or text channel that can be used. Typically, we use WhatsApp and WhatsApp groups. Temporary. Please emphasize to your role players, it's temporary. As soon as the contest is over, they're welcome to leave, or you'll delete the group, whichever the case may be, and move on from there. But you need to have these alternates options available outside of Zoom that role players can either get hold of the contest convener or the chief judge or the Zoom master at any point in time. Sometimes you may need to also do a Zoom use session with some of your officials or your contestants if they're not that familiar. And it might be possible. You might be thinking, we're so many months down the line online, surely people know now. As I said, some corporate clubs don't use Zoom. They would be news to it. So give them a little bit of help just to have that much of a better experience and put them in the best possible light. Next would be definitely is have the separate walkthrough or run through practice sessions. This is what Gary was also saying in his top tips, is do it a few days before, not just the day before or an hour or two before on the day of. It's almost too late. You need to give your contestants, your chair, your SAA, your Zoom master an opportunity to practice, that they understand how the environment works, how they will support one another and work together, especially if something isn't going as planned, which sometimes happens. Next would also be your practice session for your judges, which would be run by your chief judge in conjunction with the Zoom master to let them know how they will be moving between breakout rooms, how they would handle any technical glitches they would experience. In terms of judges, there are online forms that can be used that make the judging experience a little bit easier and information flow a lot easier between the chief judge and the rest of the judging team. But just back to in terms of your walkthrough sessions, your practice sessions, another good idea to have is checklists. You will hear and see this mentioned in the rule books as well in the online best practice guides, to use the checklists that are there or create your own. In addition to the checklist, you could create something called a run-through or walkthrough document. This is very useful for when the contest starts to get big. And here I'm referring to area upward levels. You want to have very clear, because there are so many different moving parts, and now your team will have expanded because of the sheer size of the event you're holding. You want to be very clear about who is doing what at what point in time, so nothing falls through the cracks. For example, you could have an SAA and a Zoom master, and you have the backup for those roles. And they clear about what they need to do, but not necessarily with each other. And this could be that the SAA is designated to one, well, open the session and close the session. They have their script, but also to support by managing the audience. Remember, they said the Zoom master is primarily there for the contestants and the contest chair and chief judge. The SAA is there to support that by helping to manage audience muting, unmuting videos on, etc. And any potential, hopefully we don't have any Zoom bombing, but anything like that. So that needs to be really clear. What gets done by the Zoom master and their backup, what gets done by the SAA and their backup. And this can be put through into the run through or walkthrough document, which now is literally taking the program of the contest and breaking it down into smaller blocks and then actually assigning names at those points. So people are very clear about what they're doing. And like I say, this is not so relevant for a club event. It's a lot more manageable. But once you get to area or like I say, combined collaborative contests, you want to have something like this to keep everybody honest and clear about what they expected to do and what they should be doing, or who they should reach out to if something is not working according to the way they wanted it to. Jewel, and but actually everybody on the call remaining, are there any additional before contest tips or comments you would like to share that you can think of?
Nothing from me. You've covered it all.
Yeah, nothing from my side either, because also I don't have a lot of experience with contests, so
yet.
I don't know. Yeah.
Not yet. It's coming, Selena.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and the next big element around the before the contest happens, and this is a critical thing because it also impacts the overall experience of fairness by contestants, and this is the speaking order. Now, this was very easily done in person because we would just all arrive beforehand. The contest chair would take off the contestants to their designated area, and they would either do a draw or other method to determine the speaking order. The speaking order can be very sensitive. Some people are quite, what would I say, superstitious about where they are in the speaking order, how they get selected. It's the whole like psyche behind it. But we need to make sure that whatever speaking order method we choose to use, it is the most fair. And contestants don't feel like they were not given an opportunity to select the best possible place. So you can decide how you want to do it. I've seen contest chairs who use slips with numbers, and they would just basically say in the contest briefing, which is you can do the contest speaking order a few days before. You do not have to wait for like the hour before. And this is really helpful to the Zoom master who will set up your background slides. They would say, everybody put your cameras on, and I've got 4 or 5 pieces of paper in front of me, or I've got numbers in front of me, and choose one. So even if they have numbers and say between 1 and 10 and the contestant chooses 2, it doesn't mean they're going to be the second place speaker. Underneath that number 2, you could have actually say the letter A, and A is your designation for the actual ranking or speaking order. You just need to come up with something that is logical, and as I say, emphasis on that it is fair, and it leaves contestants with a feeling that they have been given a fair opportunity to be placed. I see, Selena, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I think so. At Joe's Bank, we have some, and Anka actually introduced it to us, a wheel of names, and maybe it can be something that can be used going forward because it's basically online. You can just stick people's names in there, and then you just spin, and then the first person it lands on, that would then be the first speaker, and so on and so forth. So maybe just something of an idea to share with other clubs.
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I know what you're talking about. It's a free site that you can actually use and set up. So that's definitely a route. As I said, the emphasis is here on as long as the contestants feel that it is fair. You may use whatever method.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So as long as the contestants agree that, okay, yes, we're going to use the wheel and that's our method, go for it. There are no rules around what method you may use for speaking order, just that you must do the speaking order and it must be done in advance. And in this case, we're saying, please do it a couple of days before, so then you can communicate to the Zoom master what the speaking order is, and they can prepare the necessary background slides that form part of a high quality contest event. It's not necessary to have the background slides, but I advise it because it just adds to an overall more professional experience. In particular for visiting Toastmasters to your club, your area, or even non-Toastmasters who are visiting for the first time. And you do get some people who are just in it to see what's the contest about, and from there they actually grow their Toastmasters interest further. The other thing also to note around speaking order is it may not be altered. Once the speaking order has been determined, short of a, I don't think it actually falls under Act of God, but the rule book is quite clear that once a speaking order has been determined and it has been submitted to the Zoom master and agreed on that this is a speaking order, it may not be changed. other than if a contestant should no longer be able to participate. Then it would just go to the next name immediately after that. It doesn't become where you redo the entire process. So if somebody cannot continue, just move on to the next name, and then you clear. Okay. On the day of, what will happen for your international speech contest? You will have your call to order by your SAA. Your contest chair will re-explain the rules or state that the rules have been explained to all contestants, including the chief judge has also explained the rules, and all contestants are eligible. You would also have your timekeeper, who's your primary timekeeper in particular, will demonstrate how they will be timekeeping. So it isn't enough for you to say that, okay, we're familiar with how timekeeping works, or that it is green light at 5 minutes, yellow or amber at 6 minutes, red light at 7 minutes. It isn't sufficient to say that. The timekeeper must actually demonstrate whether they're going to be using a virtual background or they're going to be using an item or colored piece of paper. They must show to contestants, this is how I will be doing the timekeeping. You would then also instruct your audience around the use of their cameras, which typically we can put our cameras on, remain muted, but put our cameras on for silent applause, which is usually the fuzzy or happy fingers or even clapping. They can also use the reaction buttons. But this is typically when your contest chair will say that we're observing a minute of silence for the judges and will look to indication from the chief judge that it is fair to move on. This is where now your back channel or your back chat channel, which could be WhatsApp or email, whatever other platform you are using, becomes relevant, because judges will indicate to the chief judge that all completed their ballot or they completed their assessment. At that point, they're ready to move on. Next speaker. This is a total silence point. If you've not observed it, but I think all of us on the call today have, where in the 1 minute of silence, it is 1 minute of silence. No commenting, not even the chat should be used at this point in time. So again, here your SAA, and depending as how you've set up your rules of use for the Zoom account, your SAA can also help to manage that people are not using the chat facility unnecessarily, because it can become quite distracting. Next is also for contestants who have asked to be sequestered or basically put into a breakout room as a holding area. If they want to be put there as a lineup proceeding, you can do that, and then just make sure that they are given an SAA also into the breakout room that will make sure they're looked after and don't get lost returning back to the main room when it is time for them to speak. So you could use it as a pre-lineup period. From my personal experience, it's not necessary, and I've not yet encountered a contestant who wanted to be kept separate other than to test their setup. What you then do as well for your speakers, and this is per speaker, it's part of your overall briefing as well, is to make sure that their cameras and audios are working, so they're getting that testing time. And the only person, as a reminder, or people who have their audio and camera on, is always the speaker at that time. The contest chair and the primary timer will have the camera on but no sound. They won't be audible. The chief judge is not required to keep their camera on throughout the contest unless there is reason around it. Your contest chair would also typically ensure that your speaker is ready. You can ask them verbally to indicate they are ready, or to give a thumbs up. Your SAA or Zoom master can also help facilitate this, and to also ensure they are not on mute. Something else, just as a, by the way, note for contestants, but also for contest chairs in particular, is if you are using your phone in particular to join a Zoom call, depending on the settings you have on your phone, if you receive a regular phone call, a non-data call, it can land up interrupting you and muting you. So you need to please ensure that your phone is either put into airplane mode or will not allow other calls to come in, and this is something you manage on your phone settings. So please do be aware and help not get yourself cut off randomly. Next is the introductions. As I mentioned before, while you want your contest chair to have energy, that energy is displayed right in the beginning and then towards the end of the contest, but not during each speaker. It's a very simple, straightforward introduction. There's no background given, nothing alluding to who the Toastmaster is, how much time they've been a member, or how many clubs they belong to, none of that. You simply introduce, the chair introduces them with their name, title, name, and they're on screen. Once they are introduced, your contest chair, your convener, you turn your camera off, so it is the speaker and the timer only. If you have a problem, Zoom Master will step in or SAA will step in and assist. This is important to note, especially because we've had to do this to prevent Zoom bombing, is not to allow people to enter the room while somebody's speaking. Now, physically in person, this was really easy to manage because we literally have somebody stationed at the door, one of the two SAAs stationed at the door that would not allow people to walk in and out during the contest. From a Zoom point of view, it's the same principle. Put them into the waiting room, and until a speaker is done and it gets into the 1 minute silence space, don't allow anybody to just come into the room. It can really be disruptive for your speaker. And then you can see that, again, we have the 1 minute silence, and you can potentially ask the audience to switch their cameras on or give a reaction or the clapping hands just to show appreciation for the speaker, but it's all silent, no unmuting at this point in time. And then you keep repeating this procedure until all the speakers are done. Next, we then get close to the chief judge's role and timers and ballot counting. So once the last speech is done, the audience are instructed to remain silent. This is usually for a period of a minimum of 2 minutes, or as indicated by the chief judge. The contest chair will check in with the chief judge that they are ready to move out of the main room, which will be both timers, or if you have backup as well, the 3 timers will move with the chief judge into a breakout room. And once they are in the breakout room, the timers will either hold up their sheets, share their screens, or they can take a picture and send it on, say, WhatsApp, if that's your channel you're using, to give the chief judge the results of your time. There are rules around the disqualifications, and that is when a speaker has gone over time. It's an automatic disqualification. It's regardless if even they will end up scoring the highest or are like number 1 on the ballots. Time is an immediate disqualification. Once the timing results are recorded, the Zoom Master or the timers themselves can return to the main room automatically by just clicking to leave the room. The chief judge can remain in that room, and the ballot counters can be added to that same room. And then they would follow the ballot counting procedure, which would be very similar to the timekeepers, excepting now the chief judge would be sharing the ballots received from the judges with the ballot counters. And there are now Excel spreadsheets that help make this a little easier that you can manage, especially when you've got, like I said, big contests and you've got a lot of judges. You want to be able to get to it quickly and be able to give a final result quite quickly as soon as possible. While this is happening, back in the main room, the contest chair is interviewing contestants. So you remember I mentioned in the beginning, one of the documents you need to ensure you get back from your contestants in advance is their profiles. So the contest chair will be using what information has been supplied on the profile documents to interview them and have a bit of interaction. Now the audience can unmute to clap and show appreciation. There can be interaction. Now is also where you see the real energy of the contest chair coming out, while the chief judge and the rest of the judging team are busy going through their process. At this point, I also do not advise for judges to be taken to the breakout room, because again, it becomes really obvious who the judges are when you see a whole bunch of people leaving. Even though it's not obvious that they joined a breakout room, but if you know what you're looking at and you see a whole lot of people leaving, you know they haven't left the call, they've just gone to breakout room. So unless it's absolutely necessary that there is a dispute of some kind, I advise the judges remain in the main room and interact with the chief judge through the back channel, and then carry on and just remain as audience members. So before we end up concluding, is there any other questions for up until this point?
No, that was why I was going to ask about that, move judges to the judge holding room. I can't see the point of a judge holding room.
I mentioned it, Joel, only because it's in the script and it's in the rulebook. But as I say, my personal experience, and I think yours as well, has been that it's actually not advisable to move the judges to a breakout room, to a holding room.
I think that's very US centric, or maybe UK, Europe and US, but not South African.
Yes, but for us, it's better that you just keep your name as is and stay in the main room. Don't go anywhere.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. So just on that, you may get some people who would be like, but the rule book says, or the script says. I would just encourage them to bow to experience. For those who have gone through this and seen it in action, that it's actually not conducive to move people into the waiting rooms or breakout holding rooms unnecessarily. Like I say, unless there is cause, there is a dispute, then you would need to call the judges in. But other than that, judges, chief judge and the ballot counters, chief judge and the timers, it's usually enough for us to proceed. Okay, going to move on. So I'd also asked, as you've noticed now, with two other Toastmasters, DTMs giving their input, also asked our immediate past district director, Nikki Quinn, to give her input as well on any additional top tips she might have for how to organize a high quality contest. And this is what she shared.
Hello, Yudita, and everybody on the contest organizing training. Organizing a speech contest is quite easy, but you have to have a checklist. If you don't have a checklist, I'm almost certain you will forget something. If you don't have a checklist, create one, or ask an experienced Toastmaster for a checklist. That way, you won't forget anything that needs to be done whilst organizing your contest. I would also recommend that you print out a copy of the rulebook. That's a really valuable resource for you. The rules change every single year. How do you know which is the most up-to-date rulebook? I'll tell you. The rulebook that we're using now doesn't have Mike Carr on the cover. Mike Carr's rulebook will come out in about a year's time. At the moment, Aaron Beverly is on the cover of the rulebook. When the rulebook is issued, it is the previous world champion of public speaking. Easier though, it also does say the date on the front of the rulebook, but make sure you're working from the most up-to-date rulebook.
So thank you to Nikki for sharing her insights as well on what makes a high quality contest experience. Are there any questions now, having also heard Nikki's insights and thinking what you heard from Gary, as well as then read from Teboho?
Not really, but that's so cool about the rule book and the cover that they do the champion of the last public speaking contest on there.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, I also thought
It's
that's
a
such a
little tip.
lovely way to continue honoring that public speaking champion.
Very true.
And I also was not aware of it until Nikki sent this video. So we definitely learn a little more and some of the subtle and I guess things that go unnoticed, but definitely helpful. Okay, so the screen I have up here was on how to use the annotate tool if you haven't used it. And again, it's around, this is more around Zoom use. Where to find it, it's usually on the top of your screen to the left, and it will give you an option to see all those things at the bottom that would allow you for better engagement and interaction. But I don't see us needing to do that right now. And I'm missing one screen. Okay, I'm just going to go back to the screen. The last bit around contest organizing, well, not quite last bit, but an element, important element of contest organizing is what do you do post? So we spoke about all the preparation and all the activities you need to during the contest to have a good experience, right? And give your contestants a good experience. There's also elements that need to be done post the contest, once it's officially over. And they sit between the contest chair and the chief judge. The chief judge needs to take down the formal results and document it, which can then either be submitted via the chief judge or the contest chair to the area director. If it's an area contest, the area director will submit it to the division director or the division, actually to the division chief judge. And when you've got your champion of your division contest, the chief judge from the division contest will then submit it to the district chief judge so that they have an official record of who the champions are, first, second, and third place. They also then know who to contact should one of the contestants not be able to proceed forward. So that's on the official admin side. The contest chair does have some documents they need to complete, which is also a record of how the placements went. They also do provide, which you can display on screen, and this is always a nice thing to do, is the certificates of placement. This is also why speaking order and correct spelling of names becomes critical, and the Zoom master has the right details, because they're one of the role players that can help produce these documents, which is done like immediately. The chief judge would provide the contest chair with the results of the ballots, and they are read in order of third place, then second place, then first place. But in the event where there is 4 or less contestants, you only do second and first place. You don't do third place. And this is part of, well, a little bit during the contest and also leading to the post event. So the contest chair has got all this documents. You would then, both chief judge and contest chair do not hold on to some of the documents they received. They are meant to destroy them. In person, it would be relatively easy because you would just throw it in the bin, shred it, preferably not at your location. Online, you need to digitally delete them. You are not meant to keep them. And other than the official record of results, but you are not meant to hold on to like speakers' profiles, for example, and those documentations. They should be destroyed. You just provide the list and filings as a record onto the area director, and then the next like area chief, judge, etc. going upwards. Other post activities that you would do is you have a nice opportunity for PR. PR can stretch anything from you want to publish it out well to the public and do something, have a picture and a write-up that either goes as an article or it's maybe a little video, of the contestants. You avoid referring to the role players, especially the judging team. Try not to refer to them, but it doesn't mean that you don't include them in, like, say, online screenshots and that type of thing. But it is an opportunity post-contest to also celebrate the champions, celebrate the contestants, and do it in any manner of the typical PR tools available. You could also make sure that you share your results with the editor of Achieving Excellence so that she can put it in Achieving Excellence if it's appropriate, or, like I say, any other newsworthy outlet. It's a newsworthy item for your contest and critical part of your post activities. Next critical part is the certificates. You need to make sure, and this is either the contest chair, well, preferably the contest chair, not the chief judge, but between the two of you, one must agree to take this responsibility to ensure that the participants receive their certificates, whether it is just the certificate of participation or it's an actual award certificate for where they placed. You need to ensure that they do receive it. Preferably, please do this within the week. Don't allow it to lag on and drag on. It wouldn't be much fun. And sometimes what you also need from your contestants, depending again what your PR activities are going to be, but you might need some high resolution pictures which are not going to be your online screenshots. So also ask them in advance so that it's ready for your post-contest activities, that you can support it and, you know, post it out. It's really nice for members to see that they appreciate it, even as participants. It doesn't only have to be just about the champions or the winners of the contestants that get highlighted. So I know, like for Division L, we've got the Facebook page, and it would be a nice space to for clubs and members to promote their contest results there post-contest. And that is essentially your post-contest preparation. What the other slide I am missing, but I will share it in the notes, would be the timeline. As I said, you are typically starting at least 8 weeks in advance of your contest itself happening at a club level, but definitely before the district contest happens. You need to give your members also time. They want to practice and be able to speak at other clubs. So from a timeline point of view, it would be broken down with your 8 to 6 week timeline, and then coming down to a 4-week timeline, then at least a club event before that, or 2-week timeline, 1 week, and then it's, you know, day off. At least in the last week preceding your contest is when all your briefings at minimum should be happening. Are there any questions on the post activities? Okay, just also as part of the post activity admin, there are templates available that you would complete for that. Right. Now we can do the annotate, but we can have a discussion being the small group, which would be everything that you've now heard, that you've experienced yourself in different levels. How will you know that you've run a quality contest? What would be your indicators that you have run a quality contest?
I think, first of all, based on just on the day in itself, I imagine when everything is done, the role players and everybody might have a quick briefing at the end to just discuss if we ticked all the boxes from the checklist, for example, if everybody's happy, if there's not been any conflict, if all the results seem fair and there are no disputes or anything. If there are disputes, if it happens, it happens. But ideally, it's not that everybody's going to be happy. I mean, some people will be a bit disappointed. Maybe they didn't win and such. But if everyone feels that it was very fair, it was well run, and everything was executed properly, and we didn't break any rules. So we stuck to all the necessary rules, and that we just ran something that is very professional and is up to the Toastmaster standards according to the experiences that we've seen before. Thank you.
Thank you, Selena. And yes, on all those notes, with one exception, we typically don't actually do a debriefing. The contest environment is one of those sessions for the rules where we don't actually do a debrief. Other than contestants can ask for individual feedback separate themselves. Obviously, they can't ask a judge, but they're not supposed to know who a judge is. So it's a little tricky on asking for evaluation feedback. But from a judging team point of view, we would not necessarily have a debrief of what went well, didn't go well. That is handled or channeled strictly through the chief judge, on the premises that from a fairness point of view, results are not discussed. So judges should not typically know how they ranked different speakers. If anything, the ballot counters and chief judge would be the only 3 people that would know how the voting ballots and ranking went. But like the rest of the team, you wouldn't discuss that. You would take it for granted that the results are all fine. Because yes, in the event of a disputes, and we'll cover this in detail in the judges training, but there's a particular process in which it is handled, and it's usually within the contest frame itself. Post the contest, results are final.
No, I meant more like the running of the contest, not necessarily the actual results or who won or who didn't. Just in terms of the Zoom master,
right.
Yes, basically the committee and the role players as such.
Yes. Yes. No, sorry. Apologies for then my misunderstanding there. I do agree with you there. Yes. And last year when I was involved on the organizing side, that is what we actually did. Sometimes it was immediately after the contest because the contest would be in the morning or middle of the day, not like in the evening. Then the organizing team would remain behind to have a quick discussion of what worked, what was done really well, or what could be improved on. I can tell you, yes, one of the thing about not naming the judges came from one of those as an immediate, like, oh, guys, did you notice that thing happened? And, became like a quick share that we must be better at not doing that or repeating it, despite that in the rules and the script, it actually said that judges had to be named as like judge 1, judge 2. So we won't say Judge Yogita because that's pointless, but that's where it came from. And also, Jewel, I think you were actually with me on this one contest where it was around clarification of the timing and the contestant lost connection. So there was a bit of a debate around fairness and allowing the contestant more than the allotted 8 minutes. So that one was a little bit emotional and very difficult, I feel, for the judging team.
Yeah.
That one, I wasn't part of the judging team. But I know from like a timing point of view, it was very sensitive, and it came down to we can't rerun the contest per the rules. The results are final, and there is time allowed for breaking connection, and it was exceeded. That it kind of is what it is. We have to move on from there. So there are points where not everyone will necessarily feel they were dealt a fair deal in the online environment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Joel, anything you want to add or share?
No, I think you've covered everything so well. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, and thank you to everybody who's stayed on the call and interacted and
I'm
made
glad
it.
I did. It was very educational,
Yes.
very
yes,
practical,
thank
very
you.
hands-on knowledge.
And Anka, anything you want to share or ask?
Just from my side, having been president of Rosebank Toastmasters before and thinking that I'm superwoman, I was the convener and the chair for my very first contest that I organized. And that was a mean feat, I tell you. So I would recommend that you get a separate chair and a separate convener because there's so many moving parts. To keep control of it all. Your chief judge helps you a lot, but then if you, the day chair really takes a lot of pressure off the convening side, if they can take care of that part of things and look after the contestants and that sort of thing. When you've got to do everything, it kind of gets a bit much.
Yes, it does. And ultimately, though, you are still responsible as the convener for the contest. So yes, it definitely helps you to get your key players and then work together to let them help you organize it. Brilliant reminder point. So for us to wrap up today, just a reminder that we do have the judges training on the 12th of December. I know from a TLI point of view, Anka has got speaker to trainer next Saturday on the 28th of November. So we actually quite packed with training opportunities. And in between is District COT 2 round happening.
Sure.
I don't want to give out firm dates because from what I've seen, there are 2 options happening.
It's the 4th or the 5th, and the 5th is the Saturday.
Yes, so I'm wait to see more official communication on that. But yeah, please keep that in mind, share with other people. And thank you very much for your time and attention. It has been my privilege, and I hope
Thank
it is
you.
very helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Yeah, pleasure.
Well done.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very
Let's
well
finish
done.
off on something fun that hopefully, even if you've heard it before, you're still gonna love it.
Icebreaker, I nearly died. I stood on that podium, and all that I could say was, oh, I felt so dumb. But now just look how far I've come. Yeah, I'm quite strong, and I'm prepared. Go on now, throw me crazy table topics. I'm not even scared. Thanks to Toastmaster support, I know how to keep it short. When they turn that red light on, I know I'll get a good report. Cause I got friends who help me succeed. Toastmasters family, they give me confidence to lead. When I was asked to take the floor and speechify, did you think I'd tremble? Did you think my mouth would get too dry? Oh no, not I. No, not I. Toastmasters pride. Toastmasters pride. Yes, they helped me find the courage that was buried inside. I've got lots of honest folks who help me vet my jokes. Yeah, I've got pride. Toastmasters pride.
There were times when I lost faith and I began to doubt. It seemed like there were no more topics left to talk about. All my courage disappeared. All my metaphors were weird, but I persevered. Toastmasters help me face my fears. Now you see me. You see me. A DTM. I can lecture with the best of them. I got my timing to a T, and my grammarian loves me. And I can stand up self-assured and just be who I want to be. I once was bad. I couldn't toast. I used to blink I used to stand there like a post. Wasn't I the one who once who had trouble saying hi? So do I tremble? You think I'm still so awfully shy? Oh no, not I. Toastmasters pride. I'm much stronger and I'm looking forward to my pathways right. I can land that perfect gig. I can start the thing real big, cause I've got pride. Toastmasters pride.
The meetings rock. I see my friends. I see them growing. The inspiration never ends. And when I travel, there are meetings to attend all around the world now. And on that I can depend. It's worldwide. It's worldwide. Toastmasters pride. Toastmasters pride. Oh, as long as there's a Toastmasters, I know they're on my side. Now I sound like I make sense. I got brand new confidence and I've got pride. Toastmasters pride. Toastmasters pride.
Yay!
Bravo.
First time I've heard that.